My husband and I haven't been on any dates since I gave birth to our baby, 7 months old. I had postpartum depression, might still. And I was really isolated for a lot of my pregnancy and pretty much the entire time since the baby has been here. I'm alone for at least 16 hours a day, and when my husband is home, we have about a half hour to an hour before he goes to sleep for work. And during that time, he spends as much time with the baby as possible, which is understandable. We have intimacy, but that's just about as far as it goes, and some weeks he works 7 days a week. He literally works very hard for us, and I do appreciate it so much. I really do. I'm just feeling really alone. So I communicated that to him a week ago, and he said he was going to make time for me and that he would borrow his buddy's boat and bring me out while his mom watched the baby for the day. I was stupidly excited. So the day before yesterday, he came home from work early to bring me out shopping to grab stuff we needed, as he planned it for the next day, yesterday. We bought food, the essentials, and he told me to pick out a fishing pole because his plan was to bring me fishing for the entire day. I had been asking to go for 3 years, but we never had time. He doesn't even like fishing, so I asked if he was sure, and he specifically said, "Yes, this is for you. You need it. So I'm going to make it happen." I went to bed so excited, could hardly sleep. We headed out around 8 a.m. the next day. At first, everything was good. We launched the boat and started heading off. We are talking and laughing, which hasn't happened in so long. Around 9:30, he pulls off to the sandbar, and I'm a little confused because you can't go fishing here. But that's when I noticed we were pulling up on 4 other boats. His friends, co-workers, and their children. About 9 other people. I asked him what we were doing, and he said, "Well, I told them we were going out on the boat and they wanted to join us." I asked for how long, because he told me he was bringing me fishing, and this was a day for us, and he says, "Well, I figured I would bring you fishing before we leave for the day." I was immediately disappointed. For hours, I sat in the same spot, watching my husband talk to everyone else, or just sat along while he followed these guys to random locations, all beach, where you can't fish. Then they all start drinking. They offered me some, but I was just defeated at this point. Maybe 1, 2 p.m. I asked my husband to bring me back to shore. He said, "Wait, no, why?" I didn't answer him. He then goes, "No, babe, I will bring you fishing. We can leave right now." So I said, "No, thanks. I don't want to be here." He brought me back to shore in silence, where I already had someone waiting to pick me up. He asks why I am leaving with them and that he could drive me home and leave with me. I said, "No, it's fine. Go hang out. You obviously need it." And left. He came back 40 minutes later and was irritated. He was apologizing, but at this point you can just tell that he was angry, so it was more snappy and exasperated than anything. He says that he figured I would appreciate socializing, since I never do. I told him this was never about my lack of social life, but my lack of spending time with him, and I had told him that when I had talked to him about it a week ago. So he did this for him, not me. So he said, "Yup, sorry I messed up your day," and left to go get the baby. When he came back, he didn't say much of anything to me, and when he left for work this morning, he just said, "See you later." Am I the idiot? And for the record, he literally works on the water all day, every day with the guys that he invited. So every single day is a boat day and hangout day for them because they only have, at most, 4 jobs a day, and most of the time it's just him hanging out on a boat, waiting for a call. He often jokes that he gets a 2-for-1, because when he's working, it's social hour with all his good friends. ETA. I'm honestly growing tired of repeating this, so I'm just going to make it known that my social life is not the problem in this equation. I have friends, and I see them as often as I need to. My problem is with my husband and I not connecting. We do not speak, kiss, nothing. The point of the trip was to reconnect as a couple, not have me socialize with a bunch of drunks. For the record, there was only one woman there. A woman that quite happily gets tossed around the group who has 0 interest in conversing with me. I have no desire to hang out with small children either. My husband knows this. I did try to talk to people there. I was spoken over several times. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, I asked my husband to bring me back to shore. He said, "Wait, no, why?" I didn't answer him. He then says, "No, babe, I will bring you fishing. We can leave right now." He can pretend that he made his best effort to have fun with you and you crapped on it. But he knew exactly what he was doing because he knew exactly why you were unhappy before you even told him. He was trying to see what he could get away with. And he's irritated you called him out on his nonsense, not the idiot. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Let me guess. He is a people pleaser. He often feels the need to please people, and this would make a bunch of people happy. You are always lower on the list of people to please because of reasons that he can't articulate. But those reasons come down to the fact he feels the need to constantly earn respect, good feelings from pleasing others. And since he already has you, he no longer needs to please you. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my last post and for all the support and advice. It's been a tough couple of weeks since then, and I've got some updates to share. After the whole boat fiasco, things were pretty tense between my husband and me. He kept apologizing, but it felt half-hearted, like he was just going through the motions. I tried to explain again how much I needed that quality time with him, but it seemed to fall on deaf ears. He just kept saying he thought I needed to socialize more, completely missing the point. A few days later, his mom called me, asking if everything was okay. Apparently, my husband had been venting to her about our issues. I was caught off guard and a bit annoyed that he'd involve his mom instead of talking to me directly. When I confronted him about it, he got defensive, saying he needed someone to talk to since I was always nagging him. That stung. I decided to reach out to my best friend Sarah for some advice. She's been my rock through all of this, always ready to lend an ear or offer a shoulder to cry on. She suggested that maybe my husband and I needed some professional help, like couples therapy. I was hesitant at first, but the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. We clearly weren't communicating effectively on our own. When I brought up the idea to my husband, he was resistant. He said therapy was for crazy people, and that we could work things out ourselves. I tried to explain that it wasn't about being crazy, but about learning better ways to communicate and understand each other. He eventually agreed to think about it, but I could tell he wasn't thrilled. In the meantime, I decided to focus on myself a bit more. I started taking the baby to a mommy and me class once a week, just to get out of the house and interact with other adults. It was nice to talk to other moms who were going through similar struggles. I even made a new friend, Lisa, who had a baby girl around the same age as ours. One day, while my husband was at work, Lisa invited me over for a play date. We got to talking, and I found myself opening up about my marital issues. Lisa listened intently, and then shared that she and her husband had gone through a rough patch after their baby was born too. She said therapy had been a game changer for them, and encouraged me to keep pushing for it. That conversation gave me the courage to bring it up to my husband again. This time, I was more assertive. I told him that I loved him and wanted our marriage to work, but that we needed help. I said I was willing to do whatever it took, but that he needed to meet me halfway. To my surprise, he agreed. We started therapy the following week. It was awkward and uncomfortable at first, but our therapist was great at getting us to open up. We talked about our communication issues, my postpartum depression, and the strain that the baby had put on our relationship. It wasn't easy, but it felt like we were finally making progress. Then, about a week ago, something happened that made me question everything. I was doing laundry and found a receipt in my husband's pocket for a fancy restaurant downtown. The date on the receipt was from a night when he'd told me he was working late. I felt sick to my stomach. When he got home that night, I confronted him about it. At first, he tried to lie, saying it was a work dinner. But when I pressed him, he admitted that he'd gone out with some of his buddies after work. He said he didn't tell me because he knew I'd be upset. I was livid. Not only had he lied to me, but he'd chosen to spend his free time with his friends instead of his family. Again. I told him I was done, that I couldn't keep doing this. He begged me to give him another chance, promising to change. But here's the thing. I don't know if I can trust him anymore. I love him, but I'm not sure that's enough. I have to think about what's best for me and our baby. I know I deserve better than lies and broken promises. So that's where things stand now. I have a lot of tough decisions to make in the coming weeks, but one thing's for sure. I'm done putting everyone else's needs before my own. It's time for me to focus on my own happiness and well-being. Anyway, thanks for letting me vent. It helps to get it all out there. I'll keep you posted on how things go. Am I the idiot for leaving my husband and kids at a fishing trip after he invited a coworker without telling me? My husband and I talked a few weeks back about bringing the kids fishing this past weekend, and had talked in specific detail about us needing to reconnect as a family. He works so often that me and the kids hardly ever see him anymore. I work full-time at home, so the entire point of this fishing trip was to spend time together as a family. And as I said, it was discussed in great detail. Our youngest child is 5 months old and strictly breastfed as well. We head out Friday morning to go grab our boat and head to our camp for the weekend. Everything is going fine until about 40 minutes into the drive. Husband gets a phone call and starts saying things like, "Yeah, I will be there soon," or "What did you bring?" When he got off the phone, I asked him who that was, and he told me Heath, a coworker of his that I have never once met. I asked him if he had invited some random dude that I don't know to go on our family outing, and he said he had and that he didn't think it would be a big deal. He also said something about how his buddy wanted to check out the boat and whatever. I've never heard a single thing good about this guy, very sexist and makes gross jokes. I asked him to turn around and bring me and the kids back home. He asked why, and I said that this trip was meant for us as a family to reconnect, as we had discussed in great detail, and that I wouldn't be sitting around awkwardly nursing my baby in front of a man that I do not know, and watching over all of our kids when he chats and hangs out with his buddy. I told him it was messed up that he would even consider this to be a good option, considering that now meant that I would be doing all the parenting alone while he got to be social. He said that it wouldn't be like that, and that he told his buddy that this trip was meant for the kids, and that he would have them the entire time, but I honestly just was not having it at all. I know how it would have been because he said this dude brought beer, I asked. So I had him drive me home and told him to go by himself. He left pissed off. I ended up taking my kids on my own trip. I rented an Airbnb on the lake for the entire weekend. I brought my kids fishing, swimming, and to the amusement park down the road. We had a good time. I did not have cell reception at the Airbnb, so I didn't speak to my husband, outside of texting him prior to leaving, stating I would be gone for the weekend. When I got home Sunday morning, my husband flipped out, said that he had only stayed out on Friday until 5 p.m., so 6-ish hours, and came home to spend the rest of the weekend with me and the kids, just to find that we had left and he couldn't contact us. I told him that none of this would have happened if he had just stuck by his word originally, instead of making a social hour with a guy he sees every day out of what was meant to be a family weekend. He also allowed this dude to stay at our camp for the weekend because he apparently invited him to stay the entire weekend anyways. Am I the idiot for anything? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, NTA. And my father ruined every trip my mother ever tried to plan. We drove half to Disneyland 3 times and turned back around. And if we did make it somewhere, he ruined it with his bitching and whining and drinking. I have about no relationship with him, and still resent my mom for all this. She likes to say she stayed for us kids. She would have been better off dumping his butt. Is this you? Comment 2. Not the idiot at all. The fact that he never even told you and only let you find out when you'd already left tells me that he was aware that you would not want the friend going and thought he could get past this by letting you know when it was too late. Good for you telling him to take you home. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my last post and for all your support. It's been a week since the fishing trip fiasco, and I wanted to give you an update on what's been happening. After our argument on Sunday, things were pretty tense between my husband and me. We barely spoke for the first couple of days, both of us still upset about how the weekend had turned out. I was frustrated that he had invited his coworker without discussing it with me first, especially since the whole point of the trip was to spend quality time together as a family. He, on the other hand, felt like I had overreacted by taking the kids and leaving for the weekend without telling him. As the week went on, we started to talk more, but it was clear that there were some underlying issues we needed to address. One night, after the kids were in bed, we sat down and had a long, honest conversation. I told him how I'd been feeling neglected and unimportant, like his work and his friends always came before our family. He admitted that he had been struggling to balance everything, and that he often felt overwhelmed by the responsibilities of being a husband and father. We also talked about some of the problems we'd had in the past, things we thought we'd dealt with but that were still affecting our relationship. He brought up how I had a tendency to shut down and withdraw when I was upset, instead of communicating openly with him. I reminded him of the times he had made plans without consulting me, leaving me to handle everything on my own. It was a difficult conversation, but it felt good to finally get everything out in the open. Over the next few days, we made a conscious effort to be more considerate of each other's feelings and needs. He started coming home from work earlier, so he could spend more time with the kids and give me a break. I tried to be more vocal about what I needed from him instead of just assuming he would know. We even managed to plan a date night, something we hadn't done in months. But just when things were starting to look up, we hit another bump in the road. My husband's buddy, Heath, showed up at our house one evening, clearly drunk and looking for a place to crash. Apparently, he and his girlfriend had gotten into a big fight, and he needed somewhere to stay. My husband, being the nice guy that he is, told him he could sleep on our couch for the night. I was livid. This was the same guy who had caused problems on our fishing trip, and now he was in our home, disrupting our family once again. I pulled my husband aside and told him that I wasn't comfortable with Heath staying with us, especially given his behavior in the past. He tried to argue that he was just helping out a friend, but I stood my ground. I told him that if Heath stayed, the kids and I would be going to my mom's for the night. In the end, my husband asked Heath to leave, but the damage had already been done. I was hurt that he had even considered letting him stay, knowing how I felt about the situation. It felt like a betrayal, like he was choosing his friend over his family once again. The next day, we had another long talk. I told him how much it had hurt me to see him prioritize his friend's needs over mine and the kids. He apologized and said that he hadn't been thinking clearly, that he was just trying to be a good friend. We agreed that in the future, we would make decisions together, as a team, and that our family would always come first. It's been a tough week with a lot of ups and downs, but I feel like we're making progress. We still have a lot of work to do, but we're both committed to making our marriage and our family a priority. I know it won't be easy, but I'm hopeful that we can get through this together. Thanks for reading, everyone. It means a lot to have your support during this difficult time. Am I the idiot for not feeling sorry for my brother after his wife cheated on him? My older brother, 29-year-old male, has always had it easy and got way too comfortable in his situation. He was always the favorite compared to myself, 25-year-old female, and my sister, 32-year-old female, the handsome kid, popular in high school and with girls, that kind of thing. It seems during college he actually found a long-term girlfriend, and when he finished up school, he married her. It's been 6 years since they married, and he hasn't done anything. His wife has always been a driven, successful woman. How he got her to marry him, I will never know. Since they married, he has not worked, they don't have kids, he barely does anything around the house, he outright admits it. He has gained a considerable amount of weight, developed a crippling corn addiction, he's way too open to admitting it, it's awkward, and spends his days with that or gaming. My brother got too used to gliding through life because he was always the pretty and fun guy. Now that he had his dream girl who provided for the house and brought in a ton of money without him having to lift a finger, he stopped trying to contribute at all. His wife works and does all the chores, they're roommates, I've always liked her, and we hang out quite a bit. About 4 years ago, she started doing anything she could to fix the relationship, since of course my brother manipulated her into believing it was her fault. She tried to set up therapy appointments, go to the gym more, encourage him to go to the gym, try intimacy more often, cut back hours to spend more time with him, bought him expensive things. She spent years trying everything she could to fix things, believing it was her fault. He didn't try a single thing. Outright rejected therapy, mocked her weight even though she practically has a supermodel figure, insisted his weight was fine, refused to lift a finger for the house, and kept blaming her for the way things were, saying if she tried more, he would be better. 3 years later, she was still coming home to him watching corn in a dirty house while she cooked and cleaned. 3 years of her working herself to the bone, only to come home to an emotionally hurtful husband who beat her down while she tried everything to fix her marriage. Last year, she decided she wanted a divorce. My brother became hostile and promised to drag it out and take as much as he could, as apparently they have a prenuptial that he somehow got her to agree to. I know very little about divorce laws, especially in our state, except that we don't live in an at-fault state. But according to her, if she tried to go forward with it and he got petty, he could take a lot from her. Everything they have is because of her. She decided against divorce. She was trapped with him and accepted it against my objections and others. I guess by then she was over his nonsense. She slowly spent more time away from home and claimed she was working extra hours. She didn't bother him about therapy or his weight. She pretty much stopped interacting with him. She didn't cook anymore. She didn't clean anymore. It didn't take long for her to admit to me she was spending quite a bit of time with other guys and girls. She never brought any home, but was staying out late quite a bit. My brother didn't notice, and I didn't care. For years, she was a beaten-down shell trying to appease someone who didn't respect her. Now she was lively, happy, outgoing, and everything she used to be. I'm not happy about her feeling stuck with my brother, or the concept of cheating in general, but apparently it works for her. It didn't take long for him to find out. Apparently, there were a lot of people she was meeting. He was livid, demanded she stop, and threatened divorce. She didn't care. She told him he knew where the door was. It was her home solely, and she was allowing him to stay out of obligation. She told him she would gladly stop if he agreed to a fair divorce without him fighting it, and that she was showing decency as a provider and a wife by not bringing her partners into their home. The thing is, even if my brother got his way in the divorce, he knew that money would not last at all, and without any work experience and the shape he was currently in, he would be screwed. He was an overweight slacker who barely had anything to his name. Prenup or not, now he was stuck. And so that's how it's been for nearly a year. She barely comes home anymore, and the list of APs has only gotten longer. My brother has tried going to the gym more, picking up a part-time job, cooking, but it's too late. He had years to fix this, and only chose to change when his back was against the wall. He's been begging me to make her stop and to give their marriage a shot. I told him he's a moron who only has himself to blame. If you beat down a patient and caring person long enough, they will absolutely mess you up. He needs to just accept a divorce in her favor and learn from this. He didn't like my answer at all and hasn't talked to me for a couple weeks. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You were honest with your brother, and sometimes the truth is hard to hear. It is clear that his actions led to the deterioration of the marriage. Supporting his wife through this difficult time and advising him to accept the divorce might be the best way to help both of them move forward. Comment 2. Info, what are the specifics of the prenuptial agreement your brother made with sister-in-law? When a prenup is usually mentioned, it is often related to spouses keeping their own assets with a possible infidelity clause added to it. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my last post about my brother and his wife. I really appreciate all the support and advice you gave me. A lot has happened in the past 3 days, and I feel like I need to update you on the situation. So, my brother decided to take a big risk and confront his wife about her infidelity. He told her that he was willing to change and work on their marriage, but only if she stopped seeing other people. He even offered to go to couples therapy with her and start pulling his weight around the house. I was surprised to hear this, considering how stubborn and lazy he's been for years. At first, his wife seemed open to the idea. She agreed to stop seeing her partners and give their marriage another chance. My brother was over the moon and started making all these grand plans for their future together. He even started looking for a full-time job and signed up for a gym membership. But here's where things took a turn for the worse. It turns out that one of his wife's partners was her boss at work. When she tried to break things off with him, he got angry and threatened to fire her if she didn't continue their relationship. She was stuck in a tough situation, either cheat on my brother or lose her job, which was the only thing keeping them afloat financially. In the end, she chose her job over my brother. She told him that she couldn't risk losing her income and that their marriage was beyond repair anyway. My brother was devastated. He begged and pleaded with her to reconsider, but she wouldn't budge. She said she was done trying to fix things and that she wanted a divorce as soon as possible. To make matters worse, my brother found out that his wife had been planning to leave him for months. She had been secretly saving up money and looking for a new place to live. She had even consulted with a lawyer about the divorce proceedings. My brother felt like a fool for not seeing the signs earlier. Now my brother is a complete mess. He's been drinking heavily and refusing to leave the house. He's lost all motivation to improve himself and seems to have given up on life. I've tried to talk some sense into him, but he just pushes me away and tells me to mind my own business. I can't help but feel partly responsible for how things turned out. Maybe if I had intervened earlier or tried harder to get through to my brother, things would be different. But at the same time, I know that he's an adult and responsible for his own actions. He had plenty of chances to change his ways and save his marriage, but he chose not to. Looking back, I realized that my brother's problems started long before he met his wife. He's always been the type to take the easy way out and avoid responsibility. Even as a kid, he would manipulate our parents into doing things for him and getting him out of trouble. I guess old habits die hard. As for his wife, I can't say I blame her for wanting out of the marriage. She put up with my brother's crap for years and tried everything she could to make things work. But there's only so much a person can take before they reach their breaking point. I just hope that she finds happiness and peace in her new life, whatever that may be. Anyway, that's all I have for now. Thanks again for listening and for all your support. I'll keep you updated if anything else happens. But for now, I think I need to focus on being there for my brother and helping him through this tough time. Take care, everyone. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day!